53 regions in the United States. I can't possibly help 53 regions all over the U.S. So we need to build power within the states where we're already doing the work so that people in South Carolina who do TFA, they know who South Carolina Black Pride is. They know who We Are Family is in Charleston. They know what faith-based organizations they can tell people to go to that are looking for that place where they can both honor their faith and their orientation. So these are just some pictures. This one we took in Charleston, I believe. A lot of people from We Are Family came to that particular event. They provide resources and support for LGBTQI and straight youth in Low Country. So we had some leaders from there. Just flip ahead. This is the picture from when we were in Florence. Daniel's in the picture back there. And he does a lot of work with a group called, what's it called? Takeover Florence. I like that. That's very revolutionary, like Takeover Florence. But really mobilizing people there to do work. And I know he's definitely interested in talking to people who know folk in Florence who are ready to get active there. So if you see him in the back, you can raise your hand. Certainly reach out to him if you know people in Florence that are looking to get involved in doing that work there. And then lastly, a lot of the people here in this room, Brother David's here, some of our panelists, we got together at the Harriet Hancock Center here in Columbia, and that's when we had our final meeting there. So, and then in the future, we just want to build this. One of the things that I want to say about PRISM is it's not a TFA thing. It's TFA centered, but the idea of our PRISM groups is to invite people from the community to be a part of this effort. So other teachers, I know some of you may know teachers and educators who are not TFA educators that are looking to address this issue, looking for some kind of support. We welcome you to be a part of this effort. It's not just about us, okay? So with that said, we're gonna get on with our amazing panel. I am gonna pass the mic. I'm gonna ask each panelist to stand. You have their bullet points, but I think they can each offer a better introduction of them. So I'm just going to ask them sort of like what brings you to the panel and what are some of your concerns based on the work that you do with regard to supporting Black LGBT students in the city. So we'll start with Dr. Tasha.
Stand? Good afternoon or good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good to see you. What brings me to this panel is Brother West sent me an email. And we go back a little bit in the sense we met through connections in Oakland, California.
Right.
So the world's a small place, particularly as you go along your journey of life. So what brings me to this work? You have what I do in terms of my day job, but in terms of what I have volunteered with, I'm proud that I'm a past president of South Carolina Black Pride and served in various capacities with that organization, and still in some ways connected to that organization. Give me a moment. Don't tell me to move along. Okay. But most of all, I have, like yourself, my brother, I have a calling as a teacher. That is my calling, and I think it's a great gift to know your calling in life. And to be called to be a teacher, called to be a mentor, and to be called to do a particular work in a particular place. In the field that I've been called to for many years, since 2003, has been Columbia, South Carolina. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, but within South Carolina Black Pride, among other things that we have done and intended to do, is an organization that we founded, didn't quite go where all we wanted it to go, but it was about our vision of a group called HoH, which is a youth group, reaching out and advocating respect. And so having a vision about how to connect young people. I'll also talk about some individuals I've come across, particularly there are a number of GSAs, gay straight alliances within schools throughout South Carolina, and I know TFA and various other folk have connected with these groups. There is a group in Lower Richland High School that I connected with last year, and Lower Richland High School being more predominantly Black high school. But they have found it, and I don't know if they would be the first, I don't think they are, but they're among a very active group. They have a very active counselor that supports them. So there are some opportunities in South Carolina to connect with LGBTQ people of color and young people of color. So I don't know if you want to say any more than that, but that's what I'll say for now, and look forward to talking with you. Oh, everybody has okay, all right.
Awesome.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Pastor Tiffany Adams, and I, as you see here, the founding pastor of Kingdom Outreach Fellowship here in Columbia. Actually, we're located in West Columbia, and we'll be celebrating 60 years of existence this year. Yeah, thank you. I was invited by Dean, an email, and I don't know, I just kind of get pulled into stuff. This is good. Kind of got pulled into the community of color, LGBTQ community of color, by our wonderful Todd here, and never left it, just operating in different aspects. So what brings me here today, the reason why I said yes, is because our ministry has tried for a long time to really reach out to youth, and to the point of ordaining a youth pastor and just kind of going back and forth. But one thing that I found, I'm here to get some information, actually, not just to give, but to receive, how to better penetrate the community when it comes to LGBTQ youth, period, but, also, particularly youth of color. They've gone very under the radar, as my son would say, and the ones that we do get to our church, their parents aren't generally LGBTQ, and so since we are an affirming ministry and most of our congregation is LGBTQ identified, the straight parents go to other churches and they either take their LGBTQ students or children there or leave them home. And so when they're left without transportation to get to a place where they can feel welcome, their spiritual, I've seen a detachment from a spiritual life altogether. So whereas so many are now more accepted, they're walking and living in their truth, there's not a spiritual life that accompanies that. So I'm looking to develop that relationship so that young people can feel affirmed spiritually, as well as at home and in the schools and things like that. And I've also brought my son here tonight. Andrew has been in this community as long as I have. And I've told him, I said, you're going to be a resource tonight. You're going to be an ex officio panelist because he has a lot to say, and he's a 9th grader. And he's got a completely different perspective. He himself is heterosexual. But having grown up in the community since we got here when he was 6 years old, he's just sitting at the table, he's telling me all this stuff about, how kids are treated and what they're going through. And so I welcome you to ask him any questions, because he said, I'll talk about it. I know more than anybody. So just so you know, that's Andrew. So if you have a question in the moment for Andrew, real time, real talk, for a child who's in high school right now, who can answer those questions from that perspective, he's here.
Right, absolutely. And I'll just say a little bit before we move on to Tanya, that one of the reasons I thought it was important to have Tiffany on the panel, Pastor Tiffany on the panel, was because so often in the South, as you know, South Carolina, the South, when you bring up LGBT issues, the main point of rebuttal against it is the church or religion. And so rather than seeing those things as dichotomous, as like polarized, as like you either are religious and you don't like gay people, or you're LGBTQ and you don't have a spiritual relationship, I thought it was really important to begin to trouble that conversation and really have us talk about the fact that people can exist in both spaces, right? And how important that is. And so I really like what you said about you who are more so living in their truth but feeling like they can't connect to a spiritual life. So I think that's really important. Sister Tanya. I'm calling everybody sister and brother, like I'm taking on my preacher role. Sister Tanya, go on, give us something.
Thanks, brother. Good evening. My name is Tanya Waldron. I'm very humbled to be here and to have been invited to be on the panel. I work with Teach for America and have been since about 2007 with various breaks. I taught in Atlanta. I've worked in Atlanta for many years, and I've been in South Carolina for about a year and a half. I think what really brings me, I would have been here panelist or not, just because I would think that we should be supporting it. I mean, having it been invited, we'll just say that. But I think we should support, at least for me in any way I can, with many of the partners that we've met that are really trying to connect and do work to empower and encourage and create brave and safe spaces for LGBTQ Black youth and other youth as well. So what brought me here was being invited, and I really kind of fought that because I don't feel that I necessarily have a voice on this panel, so I'm here to listen and learn. And if people, I'm also definitely interested in helping our teachers learn more about who they are, learn more about who their students are, and become very aware and responsive to the reality that's around them, and unafraid to be able to encourage and bring resources and affirm and build spaces for students and themselves where people can really flourish.
Awesome, thank you. And that's for those of you who can't see some of the things on the panel, Connie actually brought her daughter, who identifies as a part of the LGBT community, to our Deep South's LGBT Summit last year. This summit is an education summit that's open to anybody, so I really encourage people here. I can get the information to David or whomever, and people get, Atlanta's not that far away, and for 2 days, we talk about education, classrooms, how to make schools safer. You can get workshops. So this is something that's open to the community. We want young people there. So I'm already like flagging the young brother here to come and be a part of. We're gonna have a youth development leadership track this year where we're encouraging youth to come, and we're gonna give them skills so that they can go and do this work as allies, as people in the LGBT community. So that's something that we're changing. Hopefully, Tanya, your daughter.
Also, my daughter was 15 last year when she went, and she's sort of like quiet. She was taking copious notes. We left, and she said she'd never been in a learning environment where she learned so many things that felt really like applicable to herself in real life. And because we did so many different things. We learned, we discussed, we solved, and it was incredible for her, and that was just amazing. Yeah, we're really looking forward to going back and bringing some of her friends with us.
Absolutely, that'd be great. And Tanya is also a person of the Muslim faith, so I think when we say faith and spirituality, we are talking about it very broadly. I think that's also important because I know when Orlando happened, some of the first responses was to try to blame the Muslim community, and we're like, no, we don't do Islamophobia. Like, there are Muslim people in the LGBT community, right? So, right, exactly. So it's important for us to acknowledge and honor that. So thank you. Brother Philip, you're next.
Hi. Good evening, and hello. My name is Philip Myers. As you can see, I do not know how to take pictures. Let's see how much I have here. I'm actually really glad that I can talk to you all about what I do because I don't know how to make bullet points either. So, just want to point out, I am a third-year member of the Harry Hancock Center. I have been under a youth program in it called Youth Out Loud, and that's where they bring the LGBT community of young people together, and we talk about things that relate to us as young people, as trans people, as gay people, as bi people, and I enjoyed that a lot. Sadly, I'm aging out, so like I can't say much long. But I've been inspired by Youth Out Loud to create GSA at my high school, Blackwood High School, where I was actually able to inform and educate a lot of my LGBT peers about the LGBT community. It's actually very surprising because they came up to me, most of them came up to me and said, Phil, I had no idea, I did not learn anything from my group, from my friends, from my groups, my parents about the LGBT community, and I'm a part of that, and I feel very excited to learn more about that and tell them more about that. And I was also inspired to create another group, my own group called HoH, for people of color. We are in the process of developing it, but we are also interested in doing a peer-to-mentor program where multiple people of the LGBT community, people of color, and possibly anybody that is part of the LGBT community, middle school age, high school age, college age, coming together and learning from each other, but also teaching to each other. And also, I'm very interested in learning and teaching stuff about intersectionality and race, because when I am a part of an identity that is marginalized and wants to express himself and is one for equality, but I also want to learn more about the people who coined that term intersectionality. So that's just a little bit about me.
So I can make a personal commitment to teach you all you need to know about intersection. I do a lot of discussions that talks about that. So I'm personally committed to being a mentor, but I'm really glad to see that you're saying that at South Carolina Black Pride, we have people here who I know will be willing to step up and be some of the mentors that you're looking for. I really think that's an interesting connection. You mentioned Roar. He's talking about QPOC. Right. So maybe there's still some good energy there to get that going. Sister Gauri.
Hello. Hello. All right, that's how we do it. As you can see, I've had 25 years of experience working with youth, from law enforcement to being a school resource officer to a DARE officer to being a captain to all that good stuff. So there was a connection. Children have a way of gravitating to me, even though I was not out. But there was something about me that they recognized. And I think that's a blessing, because being a school resource officer, they just didn't need me to teach them law-related classes. They needed me to be an advocate for them. And so for 25 years, I've been an advocate, not just being a parent, but just being an advocate through work experience. And then getting to see that just because you're gay, people still don't respect who you are. And when they came to my office was a place to hang out. And they were like, Deputy Frazier, can I just hang out here? Or Miss Frazier, can I just stay here? I need someone to talk to. So I was an advocate before I was even out. I didn't come out till I was 30. And because you don't have to be the good girl because my upbringing spiritually, and you have to do what everybody expected you to do. But when I decided to walk in my truth, I walked in my truth. That means having a passion for things I believe in. That means being the only one to stand for stuff I believe in. And that means being invited to be on the panel, because we just can't be proactive. We can't be reactive. We have to be proactive. And I've noticed that a lot of times because I'm a foster parent, and that's our foster son, I work in a group home at Walrus Children's Home. When children are gay, regardless if they're black or white, we're not treated fairly. And my thing is to be that voice. And I don't mind being a voice. Sometimes we know in this state, this is a right to work state. But if you have faith in what you're doing, and it's about God's business, and you're doing it right, you can be an advocate for anything or anyone, and you got to sometimes stand alone. Regardless of what my accolades are, I'm about handling business for our LGBT youth. Regardless if they're black or white, I'm about allowing them to not fall in those pitfalls that I did, because you have to be what society says you are. We don't have to conform to anything. We just have to conform to who we are and who God has ordained us to be. So we can teach. I believe in empower our youth. Empower our youth to be successful. Empower our youth to walk in their truth. Then we have accomplished a lot, because we need more young voices. We need adults that needs to stand up and walk in their truth. We need adults to say, hey, here I am. I'm LGBT, but I'm here to help you. I'm here to walk out with you. I'm here to go the extra mile, regardless of what may occur. And now on my campus at Ellsworth, we deal with children that are in foster care. And I remember a case where we had a young girl. She was promiscuous, yeah, she was a little promiscuous. But you got guys and girls that are straight or promiscuous. And they kicked her out and put her in a foster home. So my thing is, why couldn't you allow me to minister or mentor to that individual? We are ministry, so let's ministry. So those are things that we come across. And I met with DSS workers that you have children in foster care that you don't even address the issues. So that's why my co-partner, Ms. Williams, and I decided to have the Let Me Be Foundation. That way, to give those children a safe haven. And we took the right of becoming foster parents, because what better way to get inside the system than be a part of the system? So that's what we decided to do. We decided to be a part of the system, because my philosophy is, if I want to see a change, I have to be about a change. And so that's why we created the Let Me Be Me Foundation, to be a part of the system, to provide a safe haven for those children, or just to be an outlet for those children that are not accepting to their families and friends, or in group homes or whatever. Just be there for them, because our children need a voice, and we are that voice. All right.
we are going to ask people, because this is being sort of broadcast, so that there are people out there literally real time, like watching and listening. So just to use up, Sister Gauri, I know you good without the mic, but we are going to ask people to use it. So, Brother Adam, you're going to take it away now.
Yeah, sure. I kind of feel like I should just say my name and sit down. that was business right there. So my name is Adam Weaver. I am a 2013 Teach for America South Carolina alum with some of our folks in the back here. I had the opportunity to teach special education in Charleston, South Carolina. I taught high school special ed for 3 years, and now I work at Low Country Aid Services, which is a nonprofit in North Charleston that provides case management services, free HIV testing, and a host of other services for people living with HIV and AIDS. And I guess when I think about what brings me here today, when you spoke about how a lot of our LGBT youth and children of color are overrepresented as diverse learners, in my experience as a special ed teacher, I saw a handful. I can think of like a dozen kids off the top of my head who hit every marker of low income, person of color, LGBTQ, learning disability, and I was just like, what are we going to do? How are we going to mediate these barriers? And I think for me, what sort of was born out of that was, how do I, as a white gay man, what role do I play in this? And how do I recognize my limitations, and how do I recognize what I still have left to offer? Because obviously I think we know that people of color are underrepresented literally everywhere, particularly LGBTQ people of color are underrepresented. And so I started to try to build resources in terms of where can I point these kids, because it became apparent that while I could be a mentor in some capacity for some of those students, it just wasn't going to work for everyone. You know what I mean? I thought about this idea of, it gets better, but of course it got better. I'm a white middle class man. It was like designed to get better for me. And so what does it look like for me as an ally and as an educator and as someone who, takes my commitment. When I joined Teach for America, I took my commitment to this community very seriously, and that's why after 4 years I'm still here, and why, so many of my friends are still here, because we made a dedication to this community. We wanted to support and give what we had to give. And so, yeah, I'm here tonight, to, I guess, talk a little bit about my experience, and then B, sort of like Tani said as well, I want to learn more about how do I, be a better ally, and how do I provide these spaces and resources for the people I work with. Oh, also I'm going to be standing up a lot. Don't be weirded out by it. I was a college athlete and broke my back, so you gotta stay up.
You gotta do some standing.
I'll be back here. Don't mind me.
One of the things I want to ask our audience to do, in addition to it being broadcast, is that we are a tweeting, hashtagging community. That's one of the ways that we take something small and make it bigger. So if you have a smartphone, I'm gonna ask you to take it out. Like Brother Adam made a comment that I was like, oh, I would tweet that, right? Like, I'm a middle class gay man. It was designed to get better for me. Adam Weaver, great education. The hashtag that we use for this initiative is Brave Education, and that way people that are following that hashtag can see all the different things that people might be saying. So if you hear a quote, if you get a word, if you get a message or inspiration, or even Sister Gauri going, I don't know how you would spell that, but you can hashtag it. Brave Education is amen. So we want to ask people to do that again. You can tweet it, you can use it on Facebook. What's the hashtag again? It's Brave Education, and that's the two BRAVE education put together, okay? So, interestingly enough, when we want to get to audience questions, we pretty much answered the first question, which I think is great, by design, which was, given your current role and affiliation, what efforts currently define your commitment? I think everyone here kind of talked about that. So we're going to move along to the second question, third, so that we can open it up for audience Q&A. So the second question is, what do you think are some of the greatest barriers to Black LGBTQ students in South Carolina receiving a quality education? What do you think are some of the greatest barriers to these students receiving a quality education? Do you understand? You don't have to say it.
Okay, all right. I got just a big amount sitting there. So, well, we all know the answer. The adults are the greatest barrier, right? In the sense that, so I should say that, you know, I work on a college campus. I'm a professor in political science and African American studies at USC. And so I'm encountering on the college campus now more so than ever before, young people of color who are queer or LGBTQ and self-identifying, who, whether it be, for instance, at USC, the more and more prominent issue, as is true in our larger society, is among trans people, and the ways in which these students are fundamentally confronting the institution in a whole range of things. I mean, we were talking about the whole sort of inequality around people's own sense of comfort and being human and humane around bathrooms before North Carolina, and then North Carolina jumped off and acted a complete fool. And so, as an educator in that setting, I'm encountering that and in the context of USC, it's a college campus where you do have some degree of the administration and others who particularly through our programming office on campus, where there is some real way in which there is some degree of progression going on, but the students will tell me all the time, and will say in the context of my classes, there is so much more work to be done. And I will also say this from my own experience, and I will go back, way back, to when I was a college student at Howard University, and one of my Howard at least one of my Howard alums is here. What? Okay, all right, we'll talk. I knew there was a reason. So, talking in the HBCU context, again, the adults. And so what can we, how do you work it through? And I know, and I'm not going to pick on, but I know I have my play nephews and my brother from Allen University, Benedict University, and I don't want to argue that in any of those contexts that USC has and still has its own issues around race, its own issues around orientation. So this is not about me, even though I'm a proud son of the HBCU, a historically black institution, that I'm going to pick on HBCUs. But I know that there are certain ways in which, within the African American community, we confront or don't confront homophobia, or the way in which we put it in place. And, I can think of it was true at Howard University when I was there. We've had these questions at Morehouse and Spelman, and I will say, because actually I have a son who attended Benedict College, and he would tell me all the time about, Dad, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's really high in terms of the number of LGBT students on this campus. But we don't have a GSA. We can't because, either the AME, affiliation or the Baptist affiliation, we can't have a GSA on this campus. Even though everybody knows, that's how many people, everybody knows that there are a lot of students, that self-identify. And so, to me, the adults are the fun, me, or folk my age, or folk, around, folk in power are the problem. And so, to me, when we talk about this notion of allies, it really is the transformation among the older folk, the social worker, the folk who ought to know but don't know in these settings. And again, I'm just using college campuses as one continuum. There's a whole bunch of other ways in which high school students who are confronting, a whole range of issues are also, coming head, confronting these barriers head on, and fundamentally establishing their spirit and their potential. I'll pass the mic. Figuratively.
Well, my experience is more so with high school age, and just I would say the barrier, strongest barrier from the people that I've been in contact with would be domestic issues.